Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Grass Studio Maulers. I'm Dave Forrest, and this is my good friend
Harvey Lowe.
And in today's episode, we're going to talk about stowage, and in particular, stowage for Harvey's Sheridan.
Look at that. Sheridan, stowage. More stowage. World War II.
World War II stowage.
Yeah. And so as you've been following the episodes, building the Sheridan up, one of the things that everybody sees with Sheridans, it's they have a lot of stuff on them, right?
Armored vehicles in general.
They do. But then I think we had a discussion earlier. Remember I asked you, how come you don't see a lot of stowage on Panther tanks and Tiger 1s? Like, there's not like you would see on this stuff. Remember you said, like, people can chime in. More room inside, maybe operationally, they
maybe they're a little bit more, or maybe as you're advancing into, like, advancing into enemy territory, maybe the logistics were better supplied. I don't know.
You don't see a lot of the Allied army, right?
It seems to be the Americans
and the Allies,
and
particularly the Americans.
Yeah, they put a lot
in
of
World War II,
a lot of stuff in the
Korea,
tanks.
Vietnam, but less Germans.
They like to travel with all the amenities.
Less Japanese too. Like, you don't see a lot of Chihas with a lot of stuff hanging off them.
No.
Except foliage.
No, yeah. And German tanks too. Like, even, I'm trying to think of Blitzkrieg.
So maybe somebody out there can tell us why. But anyways.
So on American vehicles in particular.
Right. So back on this is a set by Legend. They do a Sheridan accessory set. And I got this only because I presume, and again, I'm not an expert on Vietnam subjects, but are these like Vietnam-specific gear? I mean, they just look like packs. What it comes with, just so you know, these are your rations.
Oh, okay. You get the cardboard boxes.
Cardboard boxes for rations, right? And then you get all these resin parts for various storage. I kind of cut out, I don't know if this is the way I do it. I cut out the best pieces that I think I'm going to use for the Sheridan. But you can see some of them look like ammo cans. Again, I'm not an expert at it.
But they're probably specific to that era.
Could be.
Like, I don't know that you'd see something like this on a World War II tank. Like, I don't
either.
No, right? So I think some of it is specific, but like, maybe, like, this is, I guess this is a tarp from this set.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
like
then
tarps.
there's another tarp.
But tarps in general? Yeah, I wouldn't know. I'm not an expert.
I did get this set because I presumed that they would have used World War II jerry cans. I'm pretty sure they did in Vietnam. So, and this would have the jerry cans and stuff. So, I just kind of buy these as they go. Not that I have an addiction to modeling, but do you ever buy kits that you don't really...
All the time.
Oh, okay.
All the time.
I don't do that. I got 5 on my car. Well, maybe add 2 zeros after that. So I'm just cutting these off, and in a future episode, I'm going to paint them, and I'll show you how I do it. And again, I'm not gonna. Maybe that's a good lead into yours, because I don't know about you, Dave, but for armor, if I'm doing stowage, I'm not necessarily going to town on these to make them like that you would enter in World Expo or anything stowage. I would perhaps for a figure. But maybe we can talk about your beautiful stowage, because I'd like to do these in a way that's relatively quickly, because if you're going to do all this stowage perfectly, you'd be there for hours. So,
yeah, I think.
What do you think?
I think the short answer is it depends.
Let's talk about yours.
Yeah. So first of all, let's start off by saying that I'm not a great finisher of stowage or painting figures. And that's something I want to get into and I want to learn how to do, because I think it just helps enhance things. But this is just I think we've had this on the channel before.
We have
the
had
48 in an earlier iteration of it. But I think putting stowage, especially on Allied vehicles, I think if we don't have it, right?
Yes.
It depends. But I like to. So I'm putting more and more on.
Yeah.
I did a British Sherman, a lot of stowage on that. So I think the British and the Americans, and I guess the Russians to a degree, have a lot of stowage. But especially the Americans, and maybe to a little lesser degree the British. But that's totally subjective. I may be commenting out of turn there. So, but yeah, this is just I got I think this is a value gear set.
Yep.
And the value gear set, It's funny with Valley Gear. Some of the stuff looks kind of, but I think it's how it's finished. Like this is really nice. Like Valley Gear has some really nice sets for, and they're a great little pickup, and you can get them. You can get them online. You can get them at shows. But I think I'm going to start building up my stowage, my excess stowage, and start building up a little bit of an inventory on it, because I think it just adds a lot of life to a vehicle. And this isn't finished. I just finished painting the stowage. Now I got to start incorporating the weathering and finish of the washes and all that. But it's like 85% of the way there.
So how do you do your stowage? How do you paint your stowage?
So I put everything on the vehicle. I glue everything onto the vehicle, and then I paint it with the vehicle. So I prime it.
Oh,
right. So here I've got some easy line that I use for rope to kind of secure the stowage in the back. So I put everything on as I'm building the vehicle, and then I paint it all, and I paint everything in situ.
Wow.
I don't paint it separately. I don't paint it off the vehicle.
Really?
I don't paint it. Yeah, everything's on the vehicle.
Wow. I do mine separately. And you do your wheels too attached to the vehicle.
Yeah. Well, the wheels. There's a bit of a different because the wheels they get weathered, and sometimes you have to put the trailer. It's just too much effort to. Yeah. Right. Just easier to do everything on, because if you can't see it, you can't paint it. Yep. And if you can't, so it doesn't matter, right?
So now for your stowage, back to your stowage, do you use black as a primer? Do you use different colors as a primer? It's always black.
Yeah. So if I'm doing a German yellow vehicle that has a German yellow base, I will do it in dark brown. But I'll just paint it in dark brown. I prime it with the vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's right, because you glue it to the vehicle. Yeah. And then you layer it with Gen 3 paints, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, Gen 3 mostly. So this and the hard part for me was just picking out, like, what color do I want. Like, I had 3 tarps on there. I had 2 boxes. Like, what color do I do them?
Right.
Do I do them? So I did the box in red just to give it a bit of color.
Right.
I did one of the tarps in green and a couple in like a brown and a khaki.
But tell the viewers, how do you get the tarp with the dark to light colors? Do you add a little white there, a little black there?
No, so I get a little paint. So I use a little wet palette.
Yep.
And I put the different colors on. I'll have like usually 5 or 6, like from the darkest brown to maybe lightest brown, if we're talking about the tarp here. And I'll just practice. Yeah. And then I'll shade, and I'll do a bit like glazes.
Right.
Right, and just kind of work it on. And if I don't like it, I take it off and start again.
Or you whip it at the wall.
No,
we don't do the whip the model at the wall. Do you start with the black, darkest color, and work to the light, or do you have a formula?
Typically, yes.
Okay.
So what I'll do is, after I prime them, I'll paint them in the base dark color. Yes. So I'll paint it in like a darkest brown, darkest green, darkest khaki.
Okay.
And then I'll work my way up. And then if I painted a light color into a fold by mistake, or I identify a fold that I painted over, I'll go back into it with a darker color. Okay. But very like glazes type of thing.
On the wet palette.
On the wet palette.
Yeah. I know some guys apply, like in figures, they apply an airbrush of white on top to see where the highlights are. Do you do that?
Yeah, if I planned this better, I might have done that. But
like I said earlier, right? I mean, you're not. The tarp is not the showpiece.
No,
it's an accessory.
But it adds something to it. And if you do it badly,
that's true.
It takes away from. It's like doing a figure.
Like figures, right?
Yeah, it's like a risk reward thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's something you like anything. It's you work at it, you practice it, and like I'm not great at it. Like but you know.
You know what they always say? If you want to get good at something, just do it many times. Right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing with modeling.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a little bit nervous about using an airbrush, just use it more. I found that, we're all over the map now, I found that in my early years of using an airbrush, I would always have buildup of dust at the wing root. I always had that problem. Over time, you start mixing your paints, you start playing with air pressure. Now I don't have that problem at all. And I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just...
But you're right. Practice makes perfect, and you just gotta do it over and over and over again.
So you can't
and don't get discouraged if the first results aren't great, because they're not going to be.
No,
but you get better.
I do notice some guys, and you see them, and they get nervous with an airbrush. Like I know there's quite a few people, at least in my circle here in this area, that they will do a lot of building, a lot of sanding, a lot of puttying. And then when it comes to the actual finishing of that model over the line in a painting, they sometimes don't go that far.
Yeah.
And it's because they're either nervous about using an airbrush. I said, don't. Just You got to do
practice, or get a mule, or get an out of the box build or something, or an old build that you want to paint over, and but it's practice.
It's practice,
and if you do that, you will get good. You'll get better at it. That's pretty much guaranteed.
And back to the tarps, I love your depth. Like I love it's subtle. It's there. It's practice.
It's far from the best, but it's practice. Like I didn't like this. Like the first time I did a figure, I did a little 48 scale commander for my Stug, and it was horrible. I was embarrassed.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything that won't hurt your feelings.
No, I appreciate that. You're good. You're a good friend that way. But you get better.
Yeah, you do.
You get, it takes time. You get better, and and the other thing too is the quality of the stowage, or I guess the figure for that matter, makes a big difference. Right? Where this is nicely done. It's nicely molded. The folds are nice and crisp, so you can get at stuff. You can highlight the edges. It gives it that depth. So if you're dealing with something that's maybe the detail is very soft, it's gonna be harder to get something nice out of it. It's a little easier. It doesn't guarantee success, but it's easier if it's crisply molded and nicely detailed.
Like a good figure.
Like a good figure.
Right? With good folds.
Exactly.
Same thing. Yeah. The figures of sculpting does half the work to the painting.
But from a stowage standpoint, the world's your oyster. Whether it's Value Gear or Eureka or Legend or Tamiya, like the like Mini Art's coming out with a bunch of they have a bunch of stuff for 35th. They're coming out with 48 scale range, which would be great for the 48 scale.
Or make your own.
Or make your own.
Right? Like we're using Tamiya epoxy putty or something.
Yeah. Or cigarette paper. I bought some rolling paper. Not that I roll, but for doing tarps and things like that. Maybe a flag.
Yep.
So I'm going to try that and see what that's like. But yeah.
So that's kind of a lead-in when I start on the stowage in the Sheridan. And what I'll do is, again, nothing is kind of pre-scripted on what we do. So if I make a mistake while painting, the stowage, I'll make a mistake as we do it in front of the camera.
But that's life. You learn from the mistakes.
You'll learn from it. Just do it live and figure it out. So that's all we got.
That's all we got on stowage.
For now.
And maybe we'll do a focused episode on painting stowage once I get to a point, or we get to a point where we're really comfortable with it. But I know you're going to do some in Sheridan, so really looking forward to that.
Good. Thank you, Dave.
Okay. Well, that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time on Garage 2 Demolish. Take care, everyone.